Welcome to Real Wisdom, where we dive into the real stories of remarkable women. Today we're joined by Diana Dunbar Place. Diana's journey took her from an incredible career in international marketing to a leadership role with AOL, the launch of her own agency, and through a battle with cancer. Then she found out what was calling her all those years. So she founded Third Act Quest and is on a mission to support, inspire, and connect women as they create their third act. And if you're curious to hear more stories like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Hello, Diana. I'm so happy to have you with me this morning. It seems like only weeks ago, but I think it was probably a little bit longer when we first talked and decided to get together.
I remember the conversation well. I loved learning about what you're up to. So thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You mentioned that you've had several lightning strike moments in your life. And when I first read that, I thought to myself, yeah, there's definitely moments that I can say have been a lightning strike, but you had several of them, I think all at around the same time. You mentioned there was a loss of your business and your daughter moving out of the house.
Yes.
Then you were having a big birthday, and you also had a health scare, a cancer diagnosis.
Yep.
What was going on in your head and your heart at that time? Because from what I can see, it doesn't sound like it slowed you down at all. You dove headfirst into your next steps.
Well, there's a reason I labeled them lightning strikes. And it was because of that really wild coinciding set of them. It has been my ultimate wake-up call. And doing a little research on lightning, what I found out is that when lightning hits a beach, it turns the sand into crystals and beautiful crystal formations. So for me, it's all that. And by the time we hit our late 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, we've had plenty of lightning strikes. We've lost jobs, we've lost friends, we've lost family, we've had challenges in our jobs, the whole sets of them. But all along the way, what I learned from mine was that it stopped me in my tracks. I was on what was a path that I'd been on for most of my life, which was, I call it dancing on the edges of my passions or the things that I really felt were my talents and my, let's call it calling, the things I really wanted to do in my life. Fear sort of held me in a very set path, like what I thought I should do, what I was supposed to do. So basically all of that unraveled and stopped, and I had an emotional clean slate and a life clean slate. I had a really wild, very rare head cancer of all things that I just knew was not going to take me, and it didn't. So I had great faith in my mind and body to fight it, but I also had great faith in life and its potential. And I knew I had two choices. I could either step back and be afraid for the rest of my life and go, oh my God, I just turned 60, I'm old, what am I gonna do? But instead, what I ultimately did is created an organization and desire to inspire women to embrace what I call our third acts and to put fear in the backseat, no matter what. Understand why it's there in our DNA and in our system, but put it in the back seat and not let it drive the car, and really take the very precious moment of our lives and live them the way we dream and desire. So it was it sounds really weird to say, it was the greatest gift of my life, but it took all of those at once really to stop me. That's really what I realized about my personality. So. But thanks for asking.
So are you thinking that if those events had been broken up differently, it might have had a different outcome for you?
Yeah, this is a great question. and possibly so, because I've had a lot of challenges over my
Mhm.
life. I've always been pretty fearless. I did jump in and out of a bunch of different things. When I hit a wall in my career, I said, I need more meaning. So I'd start something. I lost all my money like 2 or 3 times across my career following what I believed was more purpose driven rather than the corporate life I was living. I was pretty fearless, and I always succeeded. I always got back to a good place. So I had faith in my abilities, but at the same time, I believe that it did take at least 2 of those together to wake me up. As I say, life's disruptions are messages to us or opportunities for us. COVID, for all of us, we know we experienced it in many different ways. We lost people, we saw the devastating effects of it. But at the same time, I think if most of us uncover some gifts from it, I think so. In answer to your question, I don't know, but perhaps it took it all to, to bundle together.
Yes, to make you take action. And I love how you mentioned that you're fearless, because I think for me personally, I'm in a different space right now, and I'm still trying to
Mm.
get my feet on the ground. It's not that you don't think you have the ability or there's anything else standing in your way, but it's usually that idea of fear.
Well, you know what? It's interesting to me because fear is a part of the makeup of our system. It is keeps us safe from danger, right? I
Yes.
mean, having those instinctive understandings. However, our culture and the lifestyle and a lot of how we have become in this time, and a lot I speak for this, this culture, North America, is that we have amped it up, meaning that I used to say I'm like a worst case scenario detective. And every time your mind goes to the worst case scenario, your body does not know the difference between the real fear
Yes.
or the reality. And I mean, fear breeds that cortisol release, that unhealthy stress response.
Yeah.
And so for me, um, I see that as very, very real, but I also and I embrace it, and I understand that I need fear, to keep me from jumping off a cliff, let's say. Um, but I have learned to flip things and to be more clear and aware that those fears, like it's almost standing as a witness to my thoughts, and that those fears are untrue. They're future things, that
Mhm.
what matters is what's now. And I've also learned that I have fuel that helps me bust through fear, and that's curiosity. And that's also a feeling of meaning and purpose. And I hate that word purpose. For a lot of people, it's intimidating. But for me, it's like when you get in touch with what's truly in your heart, and for you, real wisdom interviews, empart, that's in your heart, and it has driven you. And I would bet in moments when you wake up at 3 in the morning going, what the heck am I doing? That
Yes.
you can get back to the fuel from your heart to get you through it.
It's just sometimes a little harder to focus on those things, but it is very true. You just need to look inward sometimes, and you do find the strength there. Um, but I want to get to know you a little bit better. But before we do that, I always like doing something fun. And are you up
Right?
for a quick round of this or that?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I know we both love to read, and I know that from the stack of books behind you, and we've talked about that before. What do you like to read? Are you more of a new mystery novel or the latest nonfiction?
Latest nonfiction, for sure.
Do you have something that you're reading right now that you haven't been able to put down?
I'm reading, I also am a concurrent reader, in that I'll dip in, and a lot of the books I'm reading, I can jump in the middle of. But They're two favorites of the last couple of years, and or last year. One is Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. I've already finished that, but I've listened to it 3 times. It's just affirms everything my heart tells me about possibility and about creativity and about life. The other is a more recent discovery. It's called Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder. And it is by a scientist named Dacher Keltner. And it's brilliant. And I'll just tell you quickly about it because I'm very obsessed with it and rereading it again and again. He's a part of a team of scientists. And when he says a new science, it's only more recently that we understand a lot of how emotions impact our bodies or how the mind and body are connected. So he's on the forefront in the area of awe. So basically, he and the team did a study. They got over 2,500 stories from around the world about what were awe-inspiring moments and experiences of life. And then they categorized it into these 8 pillars of awe. And I mean, it's a magical book. So that's my latest. But I just received a book that I cracked open this morning called Uncharted Waters. It's written by a dear friend, Julie Lewis, using the basis of the amazing emotional benefits of being near and watching and seeing water. So that one's my latest fascination because water is an important thing in my life.
I have heard that there is something to be said for sitting on the beach and you're staring out at the ocean. That is a very healing and restorative feeling that you get from that.
There's another book that I ordered for my daughter because she's involved with the ocean and conservation called Blue Mind, which is written by a very prominent marine biologist. And it is brilliant because he ties the science behind water and its impact on us.
Oh, well, you've given me a couple of things to think about
add
now.
to
Like
your
I
stack.
needed one more,
Add to
right?
your stack, yeah.
Okay, how about hosting a book club or attending a literary festival?
Hosting a book club.
Do you do that now? Do you have a book club in your area, or have you ever been in one?
I have, but not physically for a while. Our 333 Collective has a number of authors in it. And though we haven't done a lot of them, we have a book club concept that will be done virtually. So,
Oh.
yeah. So to me, it's really fun to discuss books.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, how about conquering a crossword puzzle or putting in the last piece on a jigsaw puzzle?
I will say I don't do either. Although when I've done both, I've enjoyed them. It doesn't fit into my life, but if I had to pick, I'd say that it's the puzzle piece.
Same. Crossword puzzles just I really don't think are my jam, but I do love jigsaw puzzles.
It seems like a test. It seems like an ongoing test. And
Yes.
kind of a visual, kind of a fun thing,
Okay, a spontaneous day trip or a well-planned getaway?
Oh my God, a spontaneous day trip for sure.
You live in a really beautiful part of the country. So is it the smell of spring or an autumn in New England that gets you?
This is got me emotionally. I don't have a sense of smell anymore because of my cancer.
Oh,
So, but I
okay.
have a memory of it. I have a memory of it, and that's spring. I mean, I love fall for sure, but spring, I can remember the lilacs. So yeah, I would say the smell of spring.
The smell of spring. Oh, I'm sorry I brought that up. I just,
No, that's okay. It
yeah.
smelled okay. So this is a question I'm going to have back to you.
Yes.
If you could lose one sense, if you knew you had to lose one sense of the 5, what would it be?
I guess I probably would say I think I would probably say smell, only because I love to cook. So I'd really feel bad if I lost the sense to taste things and be able to share that with people. And there are so many things that I feel Well, now I'm getting a little emotional that I haven't heard yet. That I couldn't lose that either. Sorry.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah.
there are certain things that you feel you haven't experienced. And so,
Our senses are very emotional. I mean, they build up our whole experience of life, and so for me, this is the weirdest thing because I remember having a very specific thought maybe 20 years ago.
mhm.
If I lost one sense, what would it be? And I said it would be smell. And I said, and I said, but what's the main sense that I could lose all others, but I must maintain? And it's vision. It's my vision. So when I had my cancer diagnosis, I lost my smell. Like it's almost, if you believe that you know these things ahead of time, perhaps, but they looked at me and they said, well, because of where your tumor is, your treatment is you're going to lose your vision in your left eye. And I looked at the doctor. She thought I was insane anyway. I said, no, I'm not. She goes, well, yeah, she probably will. I said, no, I'm not. And she goes, I said, you do what you do, and I'll do what I do, and I know how I'm gonna keep it, so don't worry. At any rate, so she laughed at me, but, yeah, our senses are and I forget that I don't have the sense of smell, and if for any people that had COVID, they might have lost it for a period of time. You forget, but, I said to my neighbor, I said, I live in a rural area. I said, your dog gets hit by a skunk, I'm your girl because so I have to look for the lemonade, from the
Right?
hey, man, I could start a service. I could probably make a fortune.
Right? Oh, gosh. Well, I did see something, and I don't know if this is something that's a part of your everyday life now, but on your Instagram, there was a really beautiful picture of goldfinches.
Oh,
And I know that you related it to a very emotional day in your life. And can you tell us a little bit about that picture? Because it is really it's beautiful.
oh, thank you, thank you. Well, I just wrote, a little pre-article piece I write for a couple of platforms, and I just wrote this piece called Little Things with Wings because I spent a lot of time flashing back to when I was very young, and
Mhm.
when I work with women in my work, I also recommend that because that's our pure time. That's the pure time. I think 5-year-old is when that pure time where you really understand what means a lot to you. So little things with wings, for me, it was butterflies, dragonflies, birds, fireflies, those kinds of things. And I've had regular, very, let's call it meaningful and spiritual connection to these
Mhm.
creatures since I was little. But on the day I came back from the doctor who gave me my diagnosis and, my head was reeling. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? Mostly, how am I going to tell my daughter? That was my biggest thing. My
Mhm.
15-year-old daughter, how am I going to tell her? And it took me a while to figure out how. But the day I arrived home, I drove into the driveway and my bird feeder that's still out there now was swirling in my whole yard was swirling with goldfinch. And I looked at them and I said, "You're my little healers, right?" And I mean, I just thought, like out of the blue, I thought this, and I did this painting that day that had a picture of a heart, and all around it was this spiral of goldfinch, and it went up to the sky into this beautiful universe. I was like, I have no idea why I drew that, but I did. And I took a picture of it, and every time I went for chemo, I put that picture on top of the bag. So anybody that's had chemo, you get to a place where it's gonna help you, but because how sick you feel, it's terrifying to see it, and it's going in your body. So I would put so the goldfinch, were there and reminded me, and then I painted a picture of a goldfinch that I have on the wall right next to my desk.
And
So
it is really beautiful. So
oh,
I
you're so
wanted,
sweet.
when I saw that, I thought I want to bring up that
Yeah.
picture because it's, like it's something beautiful that came out of, I'm sure, what was a very challenging time for you.
Well, I think anybody's challenging time requires digging in and remembering and knowing your strengths.
Mhm.
And, yeah, things are tough in our lives, health challenges, divorces, loss of job, fears of any sort. Um, but it becomes a real gift to be able to, in my case, and that's why the awe book means so much to me, because one of the categories of awe is called natural awe, and it's talking about the power of the understanding of the miracle that's around. I'm just gonna throw this random thing, and my husband just told me, I have all these lilacs and all the bees are going wild. And he read something about bees that once they come in and they take the nectar that's there
Mhm.
and go to the next, they're flitting around. Another bee will fly right by it because that contact has created a different color in the flower, which signals the next bee that it's already been depleted. Now, we don't see that. They see it. But, I said, every single little creature, it's all a miracle. I mean, it's like if you really step back, the goldfinch, everything, it's all a miracle that we're existing in and we normalize. So I think that's one of what I see as the gift of aging is that universally I see a lot of women and men really shrink down what they see as wondrous. Yeah, I'd love to go to see aurora borealis, but if I can just walk in my garden and look at a butterfly, it's like that to me contains as much wonder and joy. Anyway, so
Yeah, well, there's magic right outside your window. The one thing that you said about reconnecting with our childhood dreams, that's
hmm,
a really that's a really beautiful statement. But life happens, and as we get older, like sometimes it feels we get further and further away from those dreams,
yeah.
and they get buried or even lost. How with the work that you've been doing, how do you try and get women to see those dreams again or to live those dreams?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I just had an in-person event in about 3 weeks ago, and we did a number of things. I mentioned before the importance of following your heart. And as an introspection, we did an exercise that I've named Flashback to Five. And I it was really a lot of fun. So I had every woman that was attending, I requested they send in a photograph of themselves at around 5, and then visit it and prompted them to write about memories that popped up. And I I love this because almost everyone I speak to about this, they say, "Okay, tell me about who you were, what turned you on, what lit you up when you were 5?" They go, "Oh, I don't remember anything about that time," or, "I just remember one." I said, "Yeah, you do. You just have to really dig in." So we ask a series of questions like, "Who were your friends? What was your neighborhood like? What did you like to eat? What was the thing you played the most? What was the music you love?" Once you trigger yourself, and the photographs triggered people like crazy, like in a positive way.
Mhm.
Um, so it's not just as simple as saying, "Oh, yeah, I mean, I love butterflies, so I'm supposed to be an etymologist." It's not really that. It's really getting back to feeling and uncovering her and feeling her curiosity, yeah, I mean, there's some scary stuff that happens, but usually before school and before the influence of other negative
Yeah.
limiting influences, you are purely you. And so I read something someplace that I loved and it said, "Don't worry, she's still there. She's still there." And it's fun to go find her. So I spent a lot of time flashing back to 5. And I got to tell you, it's an unlimited number of stories that I'm coming back to, and many of them are scary, or many of them are instructive to
Mhm.
understand why I have a certain perception of something, but most of them, are exciting, and most of them really resonate with who I am and what still turns me on. I'm just gonna mention this really cool study. There's a book called Your Brain on Art, because 'cause I'm really fascinated with the power of creativity. But anyway, these 2 brilliant researchers did this book, and one of the first studies they cited was a man, George Land, did a study for NASA to understand 5-year-olds and, you know, preschool level, really, to understand how to identify genius level, innovative creativity, the future rocket scientist. They just wanted to know how to understand it and maybe nurture it. They found that, I don't know, I'm not going to quote the exact percent, but it was in the 90% level were genius level, creative, innovative, free thinkers. Then they did the test later on, and you can tell that the curve went way, 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 way down. School, how many teachers told you, "No, that tree shouldn't be bigger than the house," or whatever you were told about what you thought, what you saw was wrong. And I won't go on and on, but it's fascinating to me. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not, fully understanding the brain development, but I am fascinated by our young selves and what we are potentially forgetting as we get older,
Yeah.
or reshaping, or as you say, burying.
Mhm.
Especially our dreams get buried. But that to me is something we should all do. Search for the picture, look at that face, think of those moments. And every day, I usually, in the last several weeks especially, I've been writing little mini stories about that. I'll give you one example. I heard on NPR that the Beatles were, it had been 60 years since they came on the Ed Sullivan stage, and they changed music forever. And I'm about to turn 65, so I'm like 5 right then. And I so powerfully remembered being on my swing set shrieking, "I Wanna Hold Your Hand," that song, shrieking it. All our little friends would pretend we were the Beatles. They always made me be Ringo for some reason. I didn't wanna be Ringo. But at any rate, all of that said, I trace it back to this aha moment as a little girl to understanding love, or the potential of what love is between people that isn't my parents or my grandparents.
Right, right.
So I was like, it was so exciting. So those kinds of things, if you try to find the thread from those memories, that's where it gets fun.
Because it wasn't necessarily about music. It was more about that, like you said, that connection between love and relationships. And
Yeah.
oh, that's such a like beautiful story, especially when you're that little to be able to
Oh my God.
think those like that's a big thought.
Well, I mean, if it's the memories that you have that are almost as clear as they were yesterday. Sometimes you don't remember them, but when you do, it's like you've got this filing cabinet that has highlighted several of these that are the most meaningful, and it's worth your time to do. It's also important to understand. It helps you become more clear about what you want in your life, or how you want to feel again.
You mentioned the in-person event that you were just talking about. Was that the Quest event in Rhode Island?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, I'm hoping like next year. I hope you do that again and that next year it works
It's
out for
already on the
me.
books.
That's okay.
It's already
Good.
on the books, Holly. You are there. We're gonna gather on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and
That's my birthday, so it's meant to be.
we're gonna have Holly's birthday on May 5th, and then it's gonna be full day, May 6th and 7th, and we're gonna have optional, really deep dive, really wild experience opportunities the day or 2 after. So it was, oh my God, it was so magical. It was wonderful.
Can you share a personal story from that event that like maybe really hit home for you that you didn't expect to get out of that?
Okay, so I am a believer in visualizing, and I do a lot of this kind of in my life, where if I have a dream, or not a sleeping dream, but if I have a dream of something I want to happen,
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time imagining it as though it is happening. So
Okay.
I had done a lot of thinking about that. I had this vision for it, and all of it came true, which was wonderful. And it's because I planned the thing. But what what was astonishing to me is I knew I would enjoy everything because I planned it and I fantasized about the experiences we would share. But what the personal story that what blew my mind the most, I'll tell you, and it was inspired by the book on awe. So I was starting off the day. It's 9 in the morning. We're in a magically beautiful place, like 6 feet from the water, in this gorgeous tent, right? And I wanted to get people to get their brains clear. And I'm not a leader of meditation, though I believe in it, but I said, this is what I'm going to try. And it's one of the categories of awe is called collective effervescence. So what that is you know what it is. It's like when you're at a concert and everybody's singing
Mm-hmm.
together, or you're at a wedding and you're dancing, or you just experience something as a collective group of individuals that gives you goosebumps. I have goosebumps thinking about it, right? But so what I decided to do is make everyone, because you think about when women come together, we had like 62 women there. And when women come together, the imposter in them comes out. They look at the other person's outfit and it's prettier than theirs, or they wonder why that one is, oh my God, that one's so successful and I'm not. I mean, there's all the negative self-talk that happens. So I wanted that gone, and I also wanted them to open up and clear their brains and be happy. So I had them stand up and I asked them to turn around and silently just look at each other, meet eyes, and smile. Okay, that was nice. And then I had music prepared and cranked loudly and had them dance to Coldplay's song Adventure of a Lifetime. And it's 9 in the morning. Most of these women are strangers, and I'm expecting that I'm gonna get some eye rolls. I'm gonna get some women sitting down and feeling insecure. No. Somebody formed a conga line and they were shrieking and dancing. And after we sat down is when I gave my talk about following your heart. And it's like everybody's heart is going, wah, you know. So that I didn't expect they'd embrace it as holy. Every single person in that room was dancing like a 5-year-old, but I mean, there were all these special moments. And that's why, I got great feedback. And one of the women that she told me, she goes, if I had known the successful women that were going to be there and the speakers and how amazing they are, I would have been intimidated. But coming in, because she was at a place where she's in a transition, she goes, but coming in, nobody was passing out business cards. Nobody was saying, oh, well, I run this blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying, hey, so what's your story? Why are you here? And it was
Yes.
all about knowing each other at a human level, not at a networking level. So
Mhm.
that to me was the biggest accomplishment, I think, was that everybody felt welcome, everybody felt nurtured, even people that didn't know a soul as they walked in. So that was what it was all about for me.
I love what you just said about what's your story. There's so many times where we go somewhere and we have to show up as that person, the business person, the author, the you name it.
Yeah.
But there's moments where you just want to show up as, Holly and Diana. And I don't want to have to bring that with me. I just want to tell you who I am. And like you said, your hopes, your dreams. Why are we all here? And just be able to dance and be silly and not have to carry the weight of the world with us. It does sound really beautiful.
I will tell you one other thing that we did that is still like just blowing my mind. So I decided I wanted to create what I call a dream tree. And so I called the town of Bristol Parks and Rec, and I said, I want to plant a tree at this park that was like 5-minute walk from our tent.
Okay.
And not only did they say yes, but it was a lot of machinations with all the approvals and stuff. So at the end of it, we each had a piece of paper and we wrote our dream. Like I said, imagine it's a year from now and you are living this 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 dream of yours. You've written that book. You've done that thing, whatever it is. Imagine this year has ahead and write it as though it's real. So it was this visioning statement. And then I said, pick one thing that happened in this amazing year and put it on this piece of paper. And we went and did this really cool ceremony. We buried it in the roots of this new tree that had just been planted for us. And I mean, the women were hugging the tree. The women were like taking turns putting the dirt back in. It was just wonderful. So that tree will be there and our dreams will nurture it and it will nurture our dreams. This is, if you believe, it
Yeah.
comes, right? So,
That was
and
a really beautiful exercise.
oh,
And kudos for you to getting the park district to act on something quickly.
well, I mean, I had to approve the, site location, the arborist had to pick the type of tree, the dig safe people had to come in and make sure and blah, blah, blah,
Right.
all this stuff converged. And it was it wasn't, they wouldn't let me do a little teeny tree because they didn't think it'd survive. It was a 20-foot tree. So it was
Oh,
big. So they had all the machinery, they dug it, they did all of this. And I stayed an extra day to meet the arborist because he was so excited that we were doing this, So it's like these are the kind of things and experience in life that sounds sort of dorky to some people, but
yeah.
that's a bigger accomplishment in my book than anything I did in my corporate career. I mean,
Right, because now there's something there that people come back from year to year, or there's just a
absolutely.
story that you hold in your heart about what happened that day. As women were leaving, what did you want them to leave with or to take back into their real lives that maybe they could move these dreams forward?
You hit it right on the head. I wanted them to get back in touch. I like to say, some of you sitting in the room, in this room, think you're well on the way. You're already pursuing that
Mhm.
really hot dream you've always had. I said, you might need a little extra fuel, but you also might want to make sure that it's not possible to expand on that. Because a lot of us, especially as we hit an age where we either hit a wall in our career and decide
Mhm.
it's not what we want to do with the rest of our lives, hello, or we are forced out I'm older, but in my case, so many women I know are like brilliant professionals, but mysteriously lose their jobs as they're in their 50s or they've just said, I'm done. I got to reinvent this life. I got to start something new, either as an entrepreneur or find a new job
Mhm.
or whatever. We all naturally do what we've been trained to do, which is okay, what am I good at? What are my experiences? Da, 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 da. And you think about the next logical step. And a lot of people that are retiring from a big corporate job go, maybe I'll try to get on a board and do some consulting. And I said, that's great, but push it. So one of the things I did, I said, this is about unleashing your dreams. And I would add to that, especially the wildest ones, especially the ones you consider, oh, I could never do that. Those are the ones that are true. And those are the ones you need to at least plant seeds toward and aim for. So that's really what I wanted people to unleash dreams. I wanted people to dream bigger if they thought they were on the
Mhm.
right path or validate where they were or by now knowing this group of women, I call it like our dream team. You want to surround yourself with people who nurture it. You don't want people who are confused about what you're trying to do. You want people that go like, yeah, I'll pick you up when you fall, but I'm going to cheerlead you when you succeed. So that was what I hoped for. I hoped for a lot of unleashed dreams and honestly, the hardest thing about it, and I'm in that now, it's a month after, I'm really trying my best to help people keep those dreams alive. Because when you go to a great retreat or something, life intrudes again and you slide back into a routine. So I'm trying my best to inspire them. I just got all the photographs from the event, so I'm hoping that will inspire them to come back, to that, so.
Is there a way for the people who attend to, I don't know, stay together or continue the conversation?
Well, yes, and I know you have a community that you love, and so basically, I have a community called the 333 Collective, which is all about exploring, connecting deeply with other women who are, I call it, fiercely curious about this time of life and fiercely excited about exploring together and inspiring each other and all that jazz. So, yeah, so coming out of that, the 333 Collective, I would say two-thirds of the women that were there were already members. So they already believe in this collective energy. But yeah, so they can stay in touch with that. And I also created a new program that's launching in September that's called Quest Year. So it's basically taking a workshop that I used to condense into a hardcore 6 weeks and spread it out over a year. And it's literally is about exploring just what we talked about and making it real in the company of a small group of other women. So
I just have to say this one thing is that you definitely needed to be the mother of a daughter because I think you would be wasted on boys. Like you're just, that's where your energy is. And I know that you talk all the time about having a really, like, really great relationship with your daughter. Do you feel, especially becoming a mom a little bit later in life,
yes,
did you feel that you had something special to share with her at that point in time because maybe you had more wisdom?
I call her my last and perfect egg. Many of us struggle with relationships with our own mothers, and I did. I had a mother I knew who loved me, but yeah, I think every a lot. I would say there are a large percentage of people who can raise their hand. But I was gifted with an amazing relationship with my grandmother. So I had the relationship with her mother that she didn't have. So I was always very perplexed about all of that. And I honestly saw my mother's sadness and depression as an indicator of like because she has kids. So I put all my energy into a corporate career. I knew that I wanted kids, but it wasn't until later in life that I really knew that it was time for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been a good mother if I had had her younger. I had her when I was 41. And, the forgiveness that I give my mother is born out of the knowledge that our relationship instructed me to create what I craved in a
Mhm.
relationship with my daughter. In whatever you call it, I had that opportunity and have that opportunity with her, and then we're incredibly close. I think I might have shared with you when she was 3, she honestly looked at me, or maybe she was almost 4, she was talking quite well. She goes, "I chose you." And I said, "Oh, how nice." And she goes, "No, mommy." And although I'm a spiritual person and I believe in God, we weren't church-going people, but she goes, "I was with God, and I saw you and daddy walking up the driveway at grandma's house," and I said, "I want them." I was like,
Oh,
"Okay, I'll believe you." And actually, it's borne out in me and the experiences we have together where I used to warn her when she was 6 because 'cause we'd be having a love fest of some sort, and I'd say, "Okay, so when you're, like, 13, you're gonna look at me and say, 'Oh my god, you're embarrassing,' or you're gonna look at me and hate me because I won't let you go to a sleepover where there are boys," or whatever, and she goes, "No, I won't." I said, "No," I said, "I just want you to know that would be natural, and if you do, I will always love you, even if you yell at me, I will always love you." So, throughout the years, in her teen years, she would go, "Ha ha, you were wrong." She was the kid when I came to her high school would come running away from her friends to hug me. So I was gifted with this amazing creature. So thanks for opening up an opportunity for me to gush about my love for her.
Is there one thing that your daughter's done where you are just like so incredibly proud of that moment?
Many things, many things, but more recently, I will say that I'm proud of her and proud of myself that I nurtured her dreams. And so she identified very early a love of the ocean. A lot of young girls and boys do. There's like something about the ocean and its creatures, which, there's dolphins and all this kind of stuff. Sea turtles. Finding Nemo was not causing it. It was talking about kids' fascination with the ocean. So she always had that, and I nurtured it. I and later on, as she became older, she said, "I think I want to be a marine biologist." And everywhere she would go, adults would look at her and go, "Oh, I used to want to do that, but I decided I had to make money." And she would come home very sad. It looks like she's like 14. I said, "How dare them try to stomp on my daughter's dreams?" I said, Look at me. You have to do what's in your heart. You cannot chase money. You have to chase your dreams. You have to believe that it's in you. It can happen. And believe me, you will figure out a way to live. You'll figure out a way to make money." So she goes, "Okay, okay, okay." So she had an amazing experience in college, marine bio major, marketing minor. Thank you. That's a good backup. But she gets this first job out of college. She's hired at the same level as another person was hired who has her master's. So, like, hello, she is down in St. Thomas doing coral restoration work, which is her dream. So that to me is a testimony. And I tell her she's my role model because she didn't waver from
No.
her dream. It'll change. She'll probably do different things with it, but she followed her heart. And I said, "I wish I had." I stayed on the edges. She went right in.
Right in. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you gave her that fearless side of yourself that was on the edges, but she really embraced that.
Well, she came to this planet with that mission. She told me at 8 she was going to design a ship that would suck in all the plastic that's converged up in the northern seas and turn it into fuel. I'm like, What?" But she's not an engineer, so maybe she's not designing that, but that's what she said she was gonna do. So I was like, "Okay."
Yes, but maybe she's going to be the one to pull together the people that can actually
You never know.
develop such a boat.
You never know. I know you have children as well. These people that are afraid of our future, yeah, it's good to be afraid of the future, but all you have to do is spend some time with young people. And some of them take a while till they find their right space, but there's an intention that young people have now that I didn't have. I mean, I really see this drive to make the world better, that thank God for them. So I am more optimistic than most about our future because of the young people everywhere, not just here, everywhere.
I think the young people can see the future and they
Yes.
see how it can be better and that there's so much possibility. Do you have an opportunity to go out there and visit her?
Well, it's interesting. I'm not going to share too much, but I did go visit her the week after my event, which was like, oh my God, the trifecta for Mother's Day. And she gave me this photo book of our last trip together. I mean, it was just everything was perfect. I see her adulting. I mean, she moved to a place where she didn't know anyone. She found a place to live. She's found a used car. She's driving on these crazy ass roads. She's earning her living. She got a side job teaching tennis. I mean, the kid is living. And this is where I'm going to say, Mama Bear comes back in because I got a little email from Apple News saying this is going to be the worst hurricane season in 30 years. So we talk about fear. And so I'm working hard on figuring out how to manage that and get her prepared for what could be if there's a direct hit to these islands. The airport's gone, the power's gone, the food's like so I am, mama bear going, "Oh my god. Why didn't she just come, work safely in some city in a bank or something," you know?
She sounds very resilient, and I
Uh,
bet she will have a plan, and we're all gonna be
Absolutely.
like, well, before I let you go today, I would just love to know, um, where can we find Diana? And are you on social media? Do you have new things going on? What's your next big thing?
Well, I have a home base website called
Mhm.
thirdactquest.com, and it's a little bit outdated. It'll still list the event that's already happened. So, as a solopreneur, I think I have some updating to do, but that's my home base. But, LinkedIn is where I make a lot of my relationships. I've found some amazing, talk about stories. I'm there as my personal name, Diana Place or Diana Dunbar Place. I don't forgot which. So, LinkedIn is my place. I love Instagram because I have photography in my background. Where I'm really putting all of my energy is to building the 333 collective, and
Mm.
that's if people are curious about that, I have that offering there, and this Quest Year program is something I'm working on. I'm just now offering it just to the 333 women, and if it doesn't fill up, I'm gonna offer it further, and it really is gonna be a magical experience because it's about navigating everything from digging in, clarifying, gaining a vision or visions, and actually gathering the courage, gathering the information, and fueling it with another group of people to I call it to do some good resistance busting all along the way because every time you do something new, you wake up the next day and go, "Oh my god, that's stupid. I shouldn't do that." And that's resistance. So it's identifying all of the barriers and learning how to push them back to the back seat, and then put plans together and make them real. So the idea of Quest Year is that these women will come to the Quest event and share their stories, something they did and made real.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah.
Well, that sounds, amazing, and I am so glad that we were able to make this happen.
Let me just tell you what I witnessed, and this is another thing that I consider a gift of aging. There are times in a girl's life, I mean, girls are always queen bee things and all that bullying and stuff of middle school, high school, and in my case, I experienced it all through my corporate career with some women who were just ready to stab me in the back in 3 seconds flat. But now I talk to a lot of women that are competing, technically on paper, building something very similar to me.
Mhm.
And I just talked to one the other day who is ahead of me in terms of she's, a membership of like 40,000 women. And she's like, "How can I help you? How can we find a way to we overlap like crazy, but how can we find a way to support each other?" So I think that, that's why I'm loving LinkedIn is that women are feeling more supportive of each other ever in the history of life as as far as I'm seeing. It's like women helping women. It's up to us to rewrite the story of what life can be after 50,
Yeah.
right? It's up to us. I like to say our daughters are watching. It's up to us to embrace a new way of being. I would never say no if someone reached out to me and wanted to talk. Never. 'Cause to me, everybody we meet has a story and something to share that enriches our lives.
I think that there's room for all of us, and someone who connects with me might not connect with you. It's silly not to invite other people in
I
because
agree. I agree. Well, it's like I said to somebody, go into any major town. How many restaurants are there? How many gas stations are 4 gas stations on a corner? The population is aging at a pretty profound rate, and our life expectancy, our average life expectancy has skyrocketed. So we've got a number of years on this planet to do new things. And so we have to band together in
yeah,
some way. So
I agree. Well, again, thank you. Thank you
thank
for
you,
today. This
Holly.
was like
Yeah.
such a nice conversation.
Well, it always has been with you. I loved our last one, and I appreciate you bringing me here today.
Thank you for joining us on Real Wisdom. If you're inspired by stories like this, and want to become a part of a community that celebrates the wisdom of women. Visit joinempart.com and become a part of our conversation. And don't forget to subscribe for even more real wisdom. Until next time, keep embracing your story.